November 7th, 1872, a two-masted brigantine ship known as the Mary Celeste set sail from New York City with a cargo hold full of industrial-strength alcohol. Its captain, Benjamin Spooner Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and a crew of 7. Its destination was Genoa, Italy. Just shy of a month later, on December 5th, the crew of the De Grata spotted the Mary Celeste in the mid-Atlantic. The De Grata's captain, David Morehouse, recognised the Mary Celeste. She had sailed from the same port just 8 days before his own departure, and he knew her captain. Concerned, Morehouse changed course and launched a boarding party to check on the Mary Celeste's crew and passengers. Morehouse's crew found the Mary Celeste in decent shape, despite the North Atlantic's foul disposition at the time of year. The cargo, save for a few barrels of alcohol, was intact. The ship was well stocked with enough food and water to last 6 months. The crewmen's gear was still in their quarters. The only thing missing was the captain, his family, and the 7 crew members. Thus was born one of the most durable mysteries in nautical history. What happened to the 10 people who had sailed aboard the Mary Celeste? Through the decades and lack of hard facts was the only spurred speculation as to what might have taken place. Theories have ranged from mutiny to pirates to sea monsters to killer waterspouts. As mentioned earlier, the cargo, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol, was still there, save for 9 barrels in the hold that were empty. One of the ship's pumps had been dismantled, and there was a bit of flooding in the cargo hold. 6 months' supply of food and water remained. The logbook was still there, with a final entry dated 8 AM on November 25th. It gave the Mary Celeste's position at the time 6 miles northeast of Santa Maria, easternmost island of the Azores, close enough to see land. Perhaps more noteworthy was that was missing. All the people were gone, of course. Captain Briggs's sextant, the chronometer, the navigational book were all missing, as well as the ship's register. This suggested that in ordinary abandonment of the ship, Briggs had at least enough time to get below deck and collect his navigational equipment before hitting the lifeboat. These bits of information are helpful for analysing some of the more popular theories that have developed over the years. Here are 3 of the most realistic Mary Celeste theories. Theory 1. Treachery. Treachery gets number 1 because it was essentially the prevailing theory during the actual salvage inquiry in 1872. Naturally, Solly Flood and his court suspected foul play by the crew of the De Grata, but, as mentioned earlier, they could find no evidence. On top of that, the captains of both ships had been friends. Briggs was a seasoned seaman and well respected in the shipping circles. When the De Grata first spotted the abandoned Mary Celeste, Captain Morehouse was particularly concerned when he realised that the abandoned ship belonged to his friend. It is not impossible that Morehouse and the De Grata were guilty after all. They did stand to gain from the salvage. But between his friendship with Briggs and the fact that no evidence of violence was found, it does not feel right. Theories of treachery weren't limited to the De Grata, however. Other speculation has included piracy and mutiny. I believe we can rule out piracy as nothing appears to have been stolen. Why would pirates kill everyone on board, only to let a perfectly good ship laden with cargo drift off to sea? Mutiny also seems unlikely by all contemporary accounts. Captain Briggs was a competent, fair and rational captain. It is one of the reasons why people have been so perplexed by the needless abandoning of the Mary Celeste. It is also doubtful that he would have hired men he didn't know well when travelling with his own wife and daughter aboard. And even if there had been a mutiny, why would Briggs's crew abandon the ship after seizing control? It would have been suicide. Theory 2. Another theory focuses on the ship's cargo, those 1,701 bottles of industrial-strength alcohol. The story goes that some of the barrels may have leaked noxious fumes, a theory supported by the 9 empty barrels found on board. These fumes may have built up, causing small explosion, or at least causing the ship's crew and captain to fear an explosion. It is possible that Briggs ordered a temporary evacuation so that all souls aboard could sail in the lifeboat behind the Mary Celeste while the vapours cleared. At some point, their tow line may have detached, leaving the lifeboat behind while everyone in it watched as the Mary Celeste drifted away, leaving them alone and helpless in the vast Atlantic. There was still no visible evidence of a cabin fire, though this still leaves open the possibility of alcohol fumes that never combusted. Even a cool-headed, experienced captain might opt of temporary evacuation in such a case, especially when his own family was on board. It's a shame that the evacuation was permanent. Theory 3. A bad pump. This theory may have the most going for it. When comparing Solly's flood notes on the case, the original logbook was lost in 1885, so these are the closest surviving primary source to the oceanography data. Researchers found that the Mary Celeste was 120 miles west to where Briggs had thought he was, possibly due to the faulty chronometer, so he had clearly become disorientated. The day before the ship was abandoned, it also changed course, perhaps seeking some relief from the rough seas. But bad weather and busted chronometers would not have caused an experienced captain like Briggs to abandon the ship. There had to be something else. This is where the pumps come in. On its previous voyage, the Mary Celeste had carried coal in her cargo and had also recently been extensively repaired and renovated. The results may have been, well, that a pump came clogged with coal and sawdust. This would explain why one of the ship's 2 pumps was found dismantled. Without the pump, and with the cargo hold packed, Tetris-styled with barrels of industrial-strength alcohol, Briggs wouldn't have been able to tell how much seawater had leaked into the hull. We know from the 3.5 feet of water observed in the boarding crew that there had been some flooding, but Briggs would have been unsure to its extent. At this point, Briggs had been battling storms, was disorientated, and was able to determine that the ship was going to stay afloat. With Santa Maria in sight on the date of the last entry in the logbook, Briggs may have ordered the ship abandoned, while he still had the chance to reach land with the lifeboat. As for what happened to the Mary Celeste after that, who knows? But plenty can happen in 6 miles of open ocean, while in just a lifeboat.